What's going on, everyone? This is your boy Jay Chance of the Controversial Corner, episode number 5. And today we're going to get into the case, the very controversial case of Mr. Devon Robinson of Detroit. Now, in case you guys have been under a rock, this case has been headlining blogs and news media all around the world. It's a very tragic case, and my heart definitely goes out to all those involved. And in case you guys are not familiar with the case, just to give you some background, Mr. Devon Robinson was at a gas station on the east side of Detroit, where he, by chance, met three or four individuals, one of them being transgender. And the other ones being obvious members of the LGBTQ community. The transgender female by the name of Paris subsequently invited him over to a party that she was having in that area later on that night. We're talking about approximately 3 o'clock in the morning or so. To make a long story short, fast forward, Devon decided to go to the party, which was probably around the corner from where he lived. The party took place on Devonshire. They did what they did in the room. He was satisfied. He left. And according to him, before he went home, he stopped back at the gas station to buy a juice. And he went home. And that all took place within a matter of an hour or so. So now we're at about 4 in the morning. And he said that he went home, spoke to his mother and his auntie, took a shower, and went to bed. Now, just to give you some background, someone entered the home on Devonshire and tragically murdered 3 individuals. The 3 individuals included Paris, the transgender, that met up with Devon Robinson and invited him to the party. And thus, to make a long story short, Devon Robinson was accused of this murder, convicted, and currently is waiting for sentencing in a prison in Michigan. Now, here's the thing. Now, I've been closely following this case with an open mind, and it's very important in any case, as in any case, not to rush to judgment. A lot of people assume that Devon Robinson was so afraid of being outed, and people finding out what he was involved in, that he went back and murdered these individuals. They're calling it a hate crime. But here's the thing. Devon admitted to the police that he knew that Paris was born a male. And, supposedly everyone is innocent until proven guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. Let me repeat that again. Supposedly everyone is innocent until proven guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. And in my very humble opinion, that did not happen in this case. There was a neighbor who admitted under oath, and I'll be showing you the clip, that warning shots at participants of the party were fired because there were lewd behaviors on the side of her house that took place in public. And a warning shot is a threat that simply states, in this situation, if the behavior doesn't change, something worse is going to come. Let's take a look at her testimony.
As you're speaking, please keep your voice up. If you feel like you need to lean in toward the microphone, please do so. We need to be able to hear what you're testifying to, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Madam Prosecutor.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Could you please state your name for the record?
Tiffany M. Brink.
All right, Ms. Brink, I'm going to take you back to May 24th, a Friday night, back in 2019. Do you remember that date?
Yes.
Why?
It's a long story, but some people were outside partying on the side of my house that night.
All right, I'm going to stop you. Do you live in the area of Haverhill Mac?
Yes.
Is that near Devonshire?
Yes.
You encountered some individuals near your home that night?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
They were outside partying, loud music. I ignored that. I have a 13-year-old daughter. 45 minutes went past. My 13-year-old daughter said, "Mom, there's somebody outside doing something inappropriate." I go to my window. I say, "Can you please get off the side of my house? I have a 13-year-old daughter and my elderly aunt lives with me." One of them got smart with me and said, "B, I'm grown, you grown. If you don't want to see it, close your window." I went back in my room. I grabbed my gun, went outside and did a warning shot.
All right, Ms. Brink, I'm going to approach you with People's Admitted 25. I'm going to ask you if you recognize this person.
Yes.
Who is that?
One of the people that were on site of my house.
For the record, People's 25 is a photograph of Paris. You said that you got your gun and you fired it into the air?
Yes.
Did they leave?
Yes.
All right. Did the police come and ever talk to you about this incident?
Not until that next Tuesday.
And did you give them the firearm?
Yes.
And did you at some point receive it back?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you.
Prosecutor, ma'am? No. Defense attorney gets to ask you questions if he wants to. Okay? Cross-examination, Attorney Callahan?
How many people were out on the side of your house that night?
4.
And you observed them in public performing sex acts
Yes.
and dancing nude?
Yes.
And did you have any way, did they appear to be intoxicated to you?
Yes.
Nothing further.
When you say sex acts, what are you talking about?
They were outside twerking and bobbing and weaving.
Like dancing?
Yes.
Acting crazy?
Yes.
We're not talking about the actual act of sex.
Yes.
Tell me what you saw.
Excuse my language, they were twerking and sucking dick on top of a car.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Any additional questions based on that question?
No.
Okay, ma'am, you think they're excused?
People call Taylor Simpson.
Who?
Taylor Simpson. All right, we're going to call Lance Atterbury.
Now, I want you guys to listen very closely at the 911 call that was made by an individual who was trying to help one of the victims that was shot and murdered. Listen very closely where he actually mentions specifically that he thinks that the neighbor did the shooting.
Your 911 call, is that correct?
I did.
Mr. Collins has been marked as exhibit number 3. We're going to try call number 2 from that exhibit unless there's an objection from the defense.
May I publish?
Call on Saturday, May 25th, 2019, 4:59 and 13 seconds a.m.
And tell 911 what is the address of the emergency. Detroit 911, what is the address of the emergency?
Yeah.
911, please, get emergency. Somebody just came in and shot my friend. Okay.
An ambulance, please, an emergency ambulance, 150.
760 Withrow. I mean, no, not Withrow. Oh my God. Take a breath and tell me where you are. I don't want to be trying to look through this. Oh. Somebody else is calling right now. Okay, get in the house, man. Please tell me where you are, sir. 3474 Devonshire. 3474 Devonshire. Please hurry up, please. That's what you're doing. Let's see. 32, you stop on that. 32, you saw a shot in there. Now, move it. Please wake up your head. Listen to me. You gotta take off my God. Oh my God. Who's inside the room? Listen to me. Listen to me. This is the address. It is 3474 Devonshire. Are you near any other patients now? Are you near anyone? No. Okay, yeah. Okay, who are you near? I mean, just tell me what's going on with that person that you're near. Is that a man? Hold on, one moment. Oh! Sorry. That patient's breathing really hard. Please come home, y'all. There's nothing what I'm doing. Listen to me. They are requested to where you are. Okay? The person that you're with now, however, that patient. Everybody got to see the police. You know how old is that? It's even the 40, 1940. I know. You're not even 40 years old. You're 40 years old. 40 years old. He's awake. He's 40 years old. Is he awake? No, he just awake, but he is crazy. Listen to me. He's probably awake now. Listen to me. I have been requested, but I need your help. I don't have to tell anything. Yes, tell me that. He's breathing? So where is he shot? Tell me where he's shot. Shot in the chest. Shot in the chest now. Now, listen to me. They are requested. Okay, you gotta stay with me. I'm sorry. Stay with me now. Holy sorry. Okay. They are requested, but you gotta help him, okay? So I need you to stay while you can. I gotta get you to stay as calm as you can, okay? I have been requested, police and EMS, but I need you to lift them up. No, don't lift them up. Don't lift them up, sir. When did this happen? Do you know when this happened? This happened. Okay, so is the attacker still nearby? There's nobody nearby. I don't know if there's nobody nearby. Listen to me. Is there any fluid bleeding? Yes, they're all bleeding. Listen to me. If you completely alert, sir. If he's responding to you and I don't think my son is breathing no more. Like, what the fuck? Listen to me. I read a loud bleeding. What's breathing? You want to put pressure on his chest? You have to calm down. If he's responding to you. I'm trying to sure. If he's responding to you. Every time I say he's breathing, no. So I know he's not guilty. But don't stick on it. Okay, listen. Let's be requested. Okay? There's more than one road. There's one road, but I don't see another one. I think one little shot. Okay, I'm the paramedic. I'm sitting up and stay around me. I'll tell you exactly what's going on. I'm going to tell you how to stop the bleeding. Listen carefully and make sure that we do it right. Just clean your across the towel and place it right on the road. Press down firmly and don't lift it up to look. Can you go do that for me now? Can you do something about the bleeding? Get a clean, dry cloth of towel. I'm on the dry towel, clean dry towel. People. Sir. Stay with me. able to get the clean dry cloth and towel and press down? Sir, do you have it? But now, in the name of Jesus, I pray that you really place your hands on my step place your hands on us and cover us with the blood from the crown of our heads to the sole of our feet. In the name of God, I do. Amen. Sir, do you have that cloth in your hand? Sir? Sir, can you hear me? Yes, ma'am. Okay, do you have the cloth? Are you applying pressure to the wound? Yes. Okay, is the bleeding controlled now? Oh. See, your phone is breaking up. Is the bleeding controlled now? I don't know because I'm just holding my hand. I don't know. He's breathing. Okay, we're assuming that help is on the way, okay? Yes, ma'am. Okay, and now whoever is it? Well, you said that there's 2 more people in there. Now, that's the males. The other 2, are they males or females? They're all males, ma'am. I want to go into it. I really think the neighbor did this. Why would you think that, sir? What's going on? I just don't know. It was too close. They were too close. I'm right here. I'm all pressure on Miami. Oh my God. Oh my God. No, listen, I'm still in the line with you. I'm not hanging up until the way there. Everything you told me to do. I'm doing everything you told me to do. You keep applying pressure, sir. And if something happens and it bleeds through that towel, put another on top. Do not lift it up to look at it. Just put another towel on top of it and hold it down. We do have police and EMS en route to that location for you, sir. Is there someone else inside the home to help you? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Connect your way and please to them. Anybody there on my floor? The patient that you're with, what is his name? It's Marcel, your phone's breaking up. His name is Timothy. What's his last name, sir? I really don't know. I think it's Blanchard.
Now, in this case, I want you guys to have listened very closely to one of the detectives who interrogated Mr. Devon Robinson and actually told him specifically that they had proof, will find a reasonable doubt, and camera evidence that they saw him leave the house, enter the house in which the party was taking place at the time of the shooting, and then running out of the house back to his home. This gentleman actually admitted, this detective admitted under oath that he was lying, that he was in fact lying, that the detective himself was lying about the quote-unquote evidence that he had, which he did not have and does not.
You got a twin brother? No. And being serious, this is real important. You have a twin brother?
I got a brother that looks just like me, though.
You look just like that? The same kind of hair?
I don't know if he got it or not. He doing time.
Right, he's out of the house though. He's in jail, right? Yeah. And the clothes that you had on that night, what clothes did you have on that night when you walked into the house?
My army fatigue jacket.
Fatigue jacket, what else?
And my Adidas hat.
You say you never left back out?
When I walked into my
house, you never left back out till like 11 o'clock. You left back out shortly after you went in the house and left right back out. You never left back out like that. Yeah. That's what you're saying, right?
I never left back out.
Okay.
As I went home after leaving that shot.
Do you ever have a history of memory lapse?
I don't know.
Have you ever had
hold on, what is a memory lapse?
Have you ever had a problem where you can't remember certain things?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. When did that come on?
A lot when I smoke weed.
So you smoke weed?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you can't remember certain things that you did the night before or during that time or something like that? What you say?
Like It'd be stuff that I forget right then and there that I just said, like, damn,
You wouldn't forget shooting 3 people, would you?
oh my God.
You wouldn't forget that, right?
Yeah, man.
So then, maybe you must not be telling us the truth. Because we have videos of you going in the house and coming right back out shortly afterwards and going back to that house. Okay, we have videos of that. Now, can you give an explanation why you don't remember that? Because you just told me you left out at 11 o'clock, but that's not true.
What?
We have actual videos. So either you forgot or you're lying to me. Which one is it?
Nah, I didn't forget. I think I'm sure I ain't lying to you because I did.
Well, you did. Because we had your video coming out. Going back to the house. So,
I did. How you gonna make me admit to something that I actually? That's what you just said.
No, but you got. I told you to keep it 100. Listen though, because you don't want to. Your auntie and mom was at the house when you got there, so we don't want to get mom and auntie involved in this in a negative way, because we have video.
That's what it ain't nothing or nothing to take.
We're trying to do. But we got video. No bullshit. Mind you, we were already investigating it. And then we had video from other sources. You run out of the house if you had sex with there, or sexual action performed on you. That'd be you run out up the street, cut up the side street to your mom's house. Mind you, there's cameras everywhere. We had cameras everywhere. It's tracked. Tracks you. Right. Boom, boom, boom. You can piece all that together.
Right.
No bullshit.
I'm listening to you.
I need you to hear me. If you're listening, no, right. So I'm just saying, memory loss or whatever the case may be. I'm telling you, what we tracked you on video. Not just track you from a dog, which we can do that, we did that as well. Boom, boom, boom. In the house. Running. That's a fact. It's not no ifs, ands, and buts, or maybes. That's a fact. I'm gonna sit back and let y'all finish talking. Just want you to know that.
Over there.
Detective Hauser, towards the end of that video, the defendant says to you, I know what I didn't do and what I did do. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And when you started the interrogation, you were asking him about Paris, and the defendant acknowledged that he knew he was on the news.
Correct.
And the defendant acknowledged that Paris was on the news also, that he was on this video with Paris interacting with a transgender woman.
Correct.
But that he knew that she was a boy. That's what he said. Right. And your partner started indicating, we got your DNA, and you guys were just talking about Paris. And the defendant then acknowledges oral sex with Paris. Is that correct?
Correct.
At any time, does the defendant acknowledge having physical contact with Timothy Granger?
No, I don't recall that, no.
Or Alante Davis?
No.
Or anyone else in that house?
No.
And the defendant told you that when he went home that night, his mom was home and his auntie were both home when he got home.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And the first time that you mentioned you've got videos of him running out of the house, that's your partner Ira Todd that mentions that?
Yes.
And the defendant's initial response is a pause and a
Correct.
And then you guys keep asking him and he denies it?
Yes.
And then you chime in and you start asking him about the videos and he stops and he asks for some water. Is that correct?
Correct.
Does that indicate to you that he, after you're asking about the videos, whether or not he has a memory lapse when he smokes weed?
Yes.
He says he does get memory lapses?
He did.
And this is after the questioning about how many people he received oral sex from and being asked about shootings,
Yes.
which he denied repeatedly.
Yes.
And again, the defendant said that he clearly can remember what he didn't do and what he did,
Correct.
but only acknowledges to having contact with Davis.
Correct.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Cross-examination?
You're professional and you do things in a professional way, right?
Absolutely.
You lie to defendants, do you not?
Just doing my job.
That's not the question, sir. I asked if you lied to defendants.
To defendants,
Yeah.
do I lie?
When you interrogate somebody, you lie, correct?
At times I do, yes.
Yeah, you lied during this presentation, correct?
Correct.
You lied multiple times to him during this presentation, correct?
I did.
And he never admitted shooting anybody, did he?
No, sir.
You approach him like you're gonna be his advocate and go to the prosecutor's office and do him a big favor. Do I have that right?
Yes, sir.
Your intention isn't to go to the prosecutor and be his advocate, is it?
Well, the evidence will be given to the prosecutor.
You're not acting as his advocate when you go to the prosecutor's office, are you?
Argumentative.
Sustained.
I'm judging legitimate cross-examination.
Well, you've already asked the question, and he already responded. Sustained.
During the course of this interrogation, you and your partner are careful, are you not to mention to him the specific facts that somebody marched in that house and killed somebody in a particular room or at a particular time, correct?
I'd say yes and no. At some points I was giving him information without him knowing during my interview.
Yeah, and you're trying to get him to go along with what you're saying, right?
No, just giving him information. I'm trying to extract information from him.
You mean to tell me you're not trying to get him to go along with what you're saying?
I'm trying to get him to tell the truth, sir.
What you believe to be the truth, correct?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
I have nothing for you, Judge.
Sustained, thank you.
Thank you.
Redirect?
Yeah, so you do lie to defendants when you do interrogations, is that correct?
I do.
Why?
Just to extract information from him.
Do you expect the defendants to be honest with you all the time?
They're not honest all the time.
And why would you say that?
27 years I've been doing this, it's just a fact. I mean, they're not honest all the time.
Is
They
that
minimize their roles sometimes.
You told several lies to the defendant in this case,
I did.
and one of those involved a wiretap that you were watching the complainants in this case.
Correct?
Were you guys ever watching the complainants?
Not at all.
Were you investigating the complainants for
No.
doing something wrong?
No.
Why did you guys tell the defendant that?
Just minimizing his roles of trying to extract information from him.
When you say minimizing his role, when you first started interrogating him, you were coming at him from the standpoint of he might have been the victim in this situation?
Correct.
Did you know at this point, this is June 5th when you're interviewing the defendant, at this point, do you have any information about why this happened?
No.
Right, you are just going on based on what you have on June 5th.
Correct.
Had you been out to the defendant's house prior to June 5th, prior to when he was apprehended?
I believe I was. I had to, yes.
Was that on May 29th?
No objective exceeds the scope of cross.
As to whether or not, why he interrogated this defendant the way that he interrogated him? As to whether or not he had any issues?
What is going to sustain and does exceed the scope of cross-examination?
Yes.
Thank you. You told some other lies to the defendant, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You also told him that we had his DNA already. Is that correct?
Correct.
And in fact, do we have DNA as of June 5th?
No.
And why not?
Because it has to go be sent out to the lab and returned to us.
And when you told the defendant that we had his DNA when you were talking to him about Paris, did he suddenly tell you that he did have oral sex with Paris that night?
He did.
And had he talked about that prior to you telling him that you had his DNA?
No.
So sometimes these investigatory tactics work.
Yes, absolutely.
When you confronted the defendant about having a video of him coming out of the house, was this news to the defendant?
No objective exceeding the scope of cross.
This is asking about his interrogation tactics and how the defendant
Well, I think
responded.
it calls for speculation on the part of the witness with regard to,
I can lay a foundation.
okay, well, in terms of his objection exceeding the scope of cross-examination, the court will overrule, and then you need to lay a foundation.
Thank you, Judge. The videotape involving the person running out of Devonshire at 4:57 a.m., had that ever been released to the public?
No,
Had that ever left Detroit headquarters as of June 5th?
no,
So the defendant would have no way of having access to this information.
correct.
And the first time that he was confronted with it, he paused and went, mm-hmm,
In our interview, yes,
and then denied it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Subsequent follow-up.
yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Do you have any additional questions? Detective Hauser, you thanked and excused. Now, prosecutor, do you have any additional witnesses at this time?
Your Honor, we're going to start with Detective Williams.
The lawns or whatever, pathways, that person, we don't know what that person is wearing, do we?
No,
We don't see that person's face, do we?
no.
Do you know what type or what caliber weapon was used at the scene of the homicide?
I do not.
Okay, so you don't know whether or not the gun which you've confiscated is in fact the weapon.
Correct.
Now, I know that many will label this as a LBGTQ hate crime, as it may have been, but not by Devon. You know, I strongly believe, but besides popular opinion, I strongly believe in motive. And although the fear of being outed makes sense to some, we have to realize that Devon wasn't all that innocent and knew exactly what he was getting himself into by going to the party and condoning what was the sexual acts that were inevitable. You see, I really believe that the neighbor or the neighbor's relative or the relative's son committed those crimes for disrespecting their mother. You see, the neighbor, out of frustration, she was frustrated about these parties, which were quite frequent. And she specifically identified Paris as being the one that was performing the sexual acts on the car, in which she fired the gun at. So, conclusion, I do feel that these are the reasons why Devon should have been found not guilty. Number one, the neighbor actually admitted under oath that she fired, as I mentioned, warning shots at the participants at the party because of the acts that she saw. Number two, no murder weapon was specifically found. Number three, no gunpowder or gun residue was found on the hands of or clothing of Devon. Number four, there's no clear footage of the actual shooter. Number five, there's no eyewitnesses that can identify the shooter because, according to them, he or she was wearing a mask. So, not to even mention that the entire trial actually took place in the midst of this COVID-19 epidemic outbreak, which should have been a probable cause for a mistrial. In conclusion, was it beyond a reasonable doubt? that he committed these crimes? Absolutely not. Let me know your opinions. This is Jay Chance of the Controversial Corner. Make sure you click on like or dislike, comment, subscribe, but definitely let me know your opinions. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Attorney Callahan.
Good morning. I'd like to thank, on behalf of Mr. Robinson, all of you for being here this morning in view of the crisis that we're facing. I was wondering over the weekend whether or not maybe one or two wouldn't show up, keeping my fingers crossed that everyone would show up. But was assured somewhat by the fact that all of you sat very attentively last week, and I'm sure you gave your 100% thought and focus to what was going on from that witness chair as this matter unfolded. And, I consider it like the greatest privilege on the face of this earth to be able to stand in front of you and represent somebody accused of a capital crime. I mean, our system of justice is the only system of justice in the whole world that requires the people to prove each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. And the only way that can happen is if you, the jury, determine and make the people prove each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. That is not a simple task. I'll be the first to admit it. And there's another consideration, a couple of them actually, that have to be accounted for. And that is, as we start this process a week ago today, as we've gone through it over the past week, there's a presumption of innocence. Throughout this entire trial, Mr. Devon Robinson has been, and should have been, presumed innocent. No judgments should have been made at any time prior to the conclusion of this trial. We're confident and thankful that you afforded him his rights. So, I've got my take on the evidence here, and I think that it differs substantially from the prosecutors. I don't believe they have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that it was Devon Robinson that committed this crime. You've got testimony of Clifton Keys, Blair. At 10:30 that night, there's an incident with the neighbor, loud noises, 911 is called. many people were at that house in Devonshire at the time? 10, 15 people. We heard testimony throughout the course of the trial, different estimates from the different participants, but it ranged earlier in the evening to anywhere from 15 to 20 people. Shortly after the incident between the houses, there's an incident near a gas station right next to a house. And what's happening? This woman's watching people outside her window perform oral sex to another man on the hood of a car. They're dancing nude. And she fires the gun. Now, it's one thing to have a party, but I'm going to suggest to you that the partying that was going on this particular evening was really over the top. Everybody goes back to the house on Devonshire, and we don't know, you don't know who was there at 10:30, 11 o'clock. You don't know what happened at 10:30, 11 o'clock between this guy and this guy, between this guy and this guy. You don't know what happened after the people came back from next to that house, because there were 3 people plus 2 others that they couldn't name. You don't know what happened with these people, or if they knew where Devonshire was, or that they lived on Devonshire. Now we get into this whole gas station thing. You see a video of a light, an individual in a light clothing going to a gas station. The defendant's seen at the gas station. The defendant's seen talking with Harris. The defendant admits he went over there and he participated in the conduct that was going on that night. He admits it. All right. We're not here. You're not here to judge the morality of Mr. Robinson. You're not here to judge the morality of the victims or the people involved. We're not here to demonstrate any type of sympathy because maybe they're gay or transgender. We're here to determine whether the proofs have established beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed this crime. And you think about the way the prosecution's proceeded in this matter, they want you to infer just about everything here. I mean, admittedly, there's no gun. Admittedly, there's no fingerprints. Admittedly, there's nothing on the DNA that would suggest that he may have committed that crime. He may have been in that war. There isn't testimony from one person, not one, who would say that Devon Robinson told him, I did it. There isn't one. There isn't any testimony from anybody that would say, I saw Devon Robinson shoot and kill. You know, Blair, Clifton Keyes, stop and think about his testimony. Stop and think about what he said. The evening that this occurred, in the early evening hours, when they met at the gas station, what's he say about the defendant? Well, I noticed that he was wearing a baseball hat and a jacket, but other than that, I really didn't pay that much attention to him. All right, Blair then drives home, defendant walks up the street, Harris greets him, Lance stays in the car. Excuse me, not Lance, Blair stays in the car. Because he's a little bit irritated over the fact that he's lost his wallet. And Paris takes the defendant into the house. They go into the house, and Blair sits next to him. He didn't spend that much time out there with, up to this point in time, not very much time with the defendant. And then Blair says, well, Lance got in the car with me and we were talking, and he touched me inappropriately, and I got angry about that, and I went in the house, and all the boys were hee-heeing about the defendant being gay. Okay. And they all participated in this. And then we go from there to Brendan and Lance get into a fight, and I think I might have parties mixed up. All I know is that Brendan got into an argument with Armand because supposedly Brendan saw Armand giving head to the defendant, and then Blair gets into it with Brendan. The emotions are like flying high, and everybody is drunk, and everybody is high, and that doesn't help matters. You know that from your own personal experiences. Alcohol and drugs don't help you out in these types of situations at all. And a couple guys go up to the gas station, they find his wallet, they come back, they're all sitting around, they hear footsteps. Okay, hear footsteps, pow, 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 out the door. Call 911. Did you see who the shooter was? Answer, no. We listened to the 911 tape. We listened. He heard that on direct examination. They played it for him. On cross-examination, I asked him, well, didn't you tell the 911 operator that you didn't know who did the shooting? No, I didn't say it. Well, we played it back, and there it was. Bold as bold could be. Do you know who did the shooting? No. That night, he gave a written statement. Do you know who did the shooting? No. 3 days later, he gives another written statement. Oh, he was wearing a black ski mask, the skin, the eyes, and I believe it's the defendant. I believe it's this man here. Since based on that, I could say that he's the one that did it. You know, the problem with that, ladies and gentlemen, is that was May 28th. On November 6th, I need my notes now. I'm sorry. On November 6th at the preliminary examination, the last time before we get to a trial, while under oath, while being questioned by the prosecutor. Question, can you see the shooter? Do you see him shooting? Answer, I really didn't look. Honestly, unbelievable. Unbelievable. Honestly, I really didn't look. He didn't look. Honestly, he didn't look. The other eyewitness to the shooting admits he didn't see the shooter. It's Mr. Armand Matthews. Somebody just came in and shot my friends, I think. The neighbor did it. I was behind a wall, I didn't see the shooter. Video. See the defendant at the gas station, you know that the defendant went to Devonshire. He admits that. The mystery here relates to what happens between 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. They want you to assume, they want you to infer that the person in black had to be the defendant. Let's think about this for a second. There isn't anything in the record to support that. Fact. The video itself does not reveal the identity of the person wearing black. It doesn't. It's only by supposition. If I were to ask the question, who is that person in black? I think the only possible explanation that you can give is, I don't know. Or what is it? I think maybe it could be the defendant. Hold on a second here. What? You're gonna think. They're gonna ask you to think that it's the defendant. The burden is beyond a reasonable doubt. You're just thinking that it could be him isn't good enough. You have got to have an abiding conviction to a moral certainty that it's him. Who is the person in black? I don't know. Who was at the house at 5:01 or whatever time it was he got back? Who could have possibly gone over there? You know, they talk in terms of him as if he had a motive. Now, we didn't hear anything about motive through evidence or in their opening statement. Today is the first time you hear about motive. Oh, the motive is that they're going to blab all over the neighborhood that he participated in gay conduct. Stop and think for just a minute, will you please, about the testimony regarding the defendant and how it was that he left that evening. He didn't threaten anybody. He didn't swear at anybody. He didn't say, oh, I'm ashamed of what I did. He was a willing participant. He has got absolute no reason in the world to go and shoot 3 individuals. And the way they approach this is, well, you didn't hear him say, I didn't do it. You know, had he said on any conversation, I didn't do it, they'd be standing here telling you, oh, he's staging that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about real people. We're talking about real circumstances here. This young man sees his picture on the television. Whoops, I am in a boatload of trouble. I'm screwed. I was the last one at that party, you know. I mean, I'm glad I wasn't there. God forbid be the last one at that party, because guess what? You're getting blamed. I don't care who you are. They say, why didn't he ever say anything like I didn't do it? You know, he never admitted he did anything. He's a 19-year-old young man. He is a human being. He's taken into police custody. And what do they do? Our professional police force, by the way, you know, sometimes I get a little bit loud, and I get a little bit upset sometimes over police conduct. All right? And this is a good example of it. We're professional. We do things professionally. First question, did you lie to the defendant? Yeah, that's okay. Well, in your world, it's okay. I guess the law even permits it. But in my world, I don't like it. I don't like it. You don't have to like it either. What did they do? What did they do? They came at this kid, this inexperienced kid, with everything they had, using every blasted tactic that they know. Oh, we know what you did. We know. We got DNA. They don't have any DNA. They don't know what he did. They waited for him to tell. Oh, catch this one, okay? This is one of my favorites here. Just tell us what happened. We're going to go to the prosecutor's office, and we're going to be advocates for you. Oh, man, it's so deep at this point in time, it stinks to high heaven. It stinks. And despite each and every tactic that they used, he politely and he calmly denied it. They make it sound as if he has some burden to produce something here. You know, the prosecutor said, they make reference to, and they're critical of him for saying, well, let's wait and see what they got. Let's get the discovery back. Let's see what they say. Let me tell you something. If you're sitting in his shoes, that's exactly what was the first thing he said to his mother? If they haven't got any evidence, Mom, I can come home on Friday. She says, oh, no, not so quick, Daddy. You know, the system latches on. I'm here to tell you, regardless of these constitutional rights we have, it's an uphill battle. Gotta keep it uphill all the way. Now I want to stress to you in the most emphatic way that I can with the greatest belief. Don't give in to a hunch. Stand firm in your conviction that they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Don't let them get away with less. Tips. How good is a tip? How many tips were there? The fact that all the tips they say related to the defendant. That beans. What was the tip? I didn't hear anybody say the tip was that Devon Robinson went in and shot and killed these guys. Maybe I'm mistaken here, but I don't put stock in their tip evidence. I don't put stock in their video evidence, and it's not my fault. The motion activated camera didn't click on when somebody walked into the house. And I just think that it's possible. It's possible. They don't know who did this. You know, they're in the business of trying to open and shut cases. I want to see the justice is done myself. But I don't want you to give in. I don't want you to go in there and come on and say, well, I think maybe he did it. When there's obviously distinct other possibilities that exist. And I'll go back to my baseball. You can't assume that just because the Tigers win on one hit that it's a home run. You can't assume here. Based on those videos, that it must have been Devon Robinson that did this. And that translates to reasonable doubt. All right. I'm going to be 68 years old this week. And this whole coronavirus thing here, you know, I've got a heart condition and some respiratory problems. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if the jury's got the guys pretty down there, I better have to get down there too. And, you know, I hope that this whole scare doesn't make you want to just quickly resolve. I'm hoping that, you know, and I praise you for your courage in coming down. I mean, it's scary pushing buttons around here, right? Thank you very much for your attention to this. God bless each and every one of you.
Are you in the car or are you in the building? Ground. So you're not physically here yet? Okay. Ma'am, Officer, take that there, Jackson.
This is case number 1908817, People State of Michigan versus Devon Robinson. This matter is here for a jury trial in progress. Appearances, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. May it please the court, Jamie Powell-Horowitz for the people, P67466.
Good morning, Your Honor. Evan Callahan, P3064 on behalf of the defendant.
Mr. Robinson, please stand and state your name for the record.
Devon Robinson.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Court received a note at 10:06 a.m. indicating that the jury has reached a verdict. You bring the jury out.
All rise for the jury. You may be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court has received a note indicating that you've reached a verdict. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Madam Clerk?
Will the fourth person please stand and state your seat number for the record?
Juror number 1?
Thank you. And has the jury indeed reached a verdict?
Yes.
How do you find the defendant, Devon Robinson, As to count 1, homicide, murder, first degree, premeditated, Alante Davis.
We find the defendant guilty.
How do you find the defendant as to count 2, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Timothy Blanchard?
Guilty.
And as to count 3, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Paris Cameron?
Guilty.
As to count 4, assault with intent to murder, Clifton Blair Keys?
Guilty.
As to count 5, assault with intent to murder, Armand Matthews?
Guilty.
As to count 6, felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Alante Davis.
Guilty.
As to count 7, felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Timothy Blanchard.
Guilty.
And as to count 8, felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Paris Cameron.
Guilty.
As to count 9, felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, assault with intent to murder, Clifton Blair Keys.
Guilty.
And as to count 10, felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, assault with intent to murder, Armand Matthews.
Guilty.
Will all members of the jury please stand and raise your right hands for me, please? Listen to your verdict as recorded by the court. You say upon your oath that you find the defendant, Devon Robinson, as to count 1, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Alante Davis, guilty. As to count 2, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Timothy Blanchard, guilty. As to count 3, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Paris Cameron, guilty. As to count 4, assault with intent to murder, Clifton Blair Keys, guilty. As to count 5, assault with intent to murder, Armand Matthews, guilty. As to count 6, felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Alante Davis, guilty. As to count 7, felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Timothy Blanchard, guilty. As to count 8, felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Paris Cameron, guilty. As to count 9, felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, assault with intent to murder, Clifton Keys, guilty. As to count 10, felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, assault with intent to murder, Armand Matthews, guilty. So say you, Mr. Foreperson, and all members of the jury.
Yes.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Do either of the attorneys wish to have the jury polled?
Please.
Madam Clerk?
Jury number 1, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 2, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 3, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 4, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 5, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 6, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 7, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 8, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 9, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 11, was that and is that your verdict? Jury number 12, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 13, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
The jury has been polled.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the court is going to discharge you from your jury service. I do appreciate that each and every day you showed up here on time. You appear to really do the work when you went into the jury room with regard to deliberation. And again, I appreciate you being here on time and showing up, even though we are dealing with some things in our community right now that has a number of businesses closed, including this particular court for non-emergency matters. So you can enter the jury room and gather your belongings. We will be bringing into you certificates and letters for your service today. And in a moment, I will also come in and speak with you.
All rise for the jury. You may be seated.
We need to schedule a sentencing.
Looking at April 10th.
that a good date, Attorney Callahan?
Yes.
April 10th for sentencing. The defendant is remanded.
Your Honor, I apologize, that is Passover, could we do April 13th?
April 13th for sentencing. Does that work, Attorney Callahan?
Yes.
April 13th for sentencing. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Now you can get instant cash back on all of your purchases. Try Ibolta today. That's right, Ibolta. You can get cash back on purchases at Home Depot, Best Buy, Myers, Walmart, even PetSmart, Groupon, Amazon, Michaels, and more. You can even get cash back on all your travels. Hotel, air travels, Airbnb, and even your restaurant and other dining privileges. Try Ibolta today. Click on the link below and find out more. That's Ibolta. Ibotta. Click on the link below and redeem your reward. That's Ibolta today. Try it now.